Alright, this is our first lesson, lesson number 1 for Algebra 1. We're going to look at coordinate plane and reading graphs. And our objectives today, students, will review the coordinate plane and read graphs, okay? So we're just looking at pictures of graphs and we're going to identify what they are. So we should already kind of know what certain things are. And so today what we're going to do is look at these steps. We're going to identify the form of the graph, match the form with the following form. So I'm going to ask you to make 8 graphs. There are 4 different kinds of graphs that we're going to look at this year. We're going to have linear graphs. We're going to have quadratic graphs. And there are other ones too, but we'll start with these. Exponential. And cubic. Okay? So we're going to have 4 graphs. These are all coordinate planes, okay? So a linear could either, on all of these graphs, there could be either a positive version or they could be a negative version. Okay, make sure you're writing these down. So what I need you to do is write down all of these, and then you're going to make 8 pictures of graphs. A positive linear looks like this from left to right. If you're reading it like a book, it'll go up from left to right, okay? That's what a positive linear looks like. A negative linear will go down from left to right, so it'll look like this, okay? A positive quadratic looks like a U, and it goes, and it opens up. This is an example of a positive quadratic. A negative quadratic opens down as follows. Okay? Then we have exponential. An exponential graph looks like a line that's just barely growing, and then all of a sudden it'll just really exponentially grow quickly from left to right. A negative exponential declines quickly from left to right, and then it just slowly declines thereafter. Okay? A positive cubic graph goes up from left to right like a line, but it'll slowly go straight and then go back up again. So it goes up from left to right. Negative cubic is the same thing. And looks like that. Why don't you take about a minute to copy those? You stand up, a good way to memorize is just doing the arm motion. So remember, you're reading it like a book from left to right, okay? So let's just go through all of them. Let's start with positive linear. So we're going to do positive linear. Put your arms straight out from left to right, make sure they're straight. And then let's do negative linear, okay? And then I would like you to do positive quadratic. Put your arms up like this. Good. Negative quadratic, arms down, right? And exponential, positive exponential from left to right. Kind of like flat, and then it goes straight up, right? And then negative exponential is just the opposite. It kind of is that. Does it make sense? Straight. There you go. Get that arm up, okay? And then we have cubic, positive cubic from left to right is like this, right? Make your arms look like that. And then negative cubic. Positive cubic. Negative cubic. Positive cubic. Negative cubic. Positive. Okay. All right, so let's test you. Now stand up. Give me a positive quadratic. Show me positive quadratic. Everyone's doing this. Show me a positive cubic. Okay, good. Show me a negative linear. Show me a positive quadratic. Negative exponential. Negative quadratic. Okay, so the goal is today, you can have a seat, thank you. The goal for today is for you to be able to recognize these and create them, and also recognize them and identify them, okay? One more review. Are the parts of a coordinate plane, right? We have the x-axis, right? You can write this down in your notes. This is all review. You should all know this from algebra or pre-algebra. Then we got the y-axis. This whole thing is called the coordinate plane. Where the x and the y-axis meet in the middle, this is called the origin. Okay? And then we have 4 quadrants in the coordinated plane. We have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Alright, write these down, please. So, for today's lesson, we're going to be looking at these. Identify the form of the graph. So, at this point in the lesson, whenever I do problems numbers 1 and 2, you're just watching. So, pencils down, you're not writing anything. I'm going to show you how to do these problems, and you're going to talk to your neighbor about how to do these problems, and then you're going to get to write the problems, okay? So I promise you'll get to write. Just watch right now, because if you're writing and not watching, then you're not learning, and you might miss something important, okay? Today's super easy. I feel like it's an easy concept to get, so just watch right now. So identify the form of the graph. This is number 1. It goes from left to right. It's a line, and it's going up from left to right. Therefore, I know this is a positive linear graph. So all I'm going to do is write positive linear. Okay? No one's writing, you're just watching right now. Okay? Again, what did I just do? I looked at the graph, and then I looked at all the forms that I had in my notes. So I identified the form. I know this is positive linear, and then I matched the form. Looks like that, right? So positive linear. So then I wrote down positive linear on my homework. Okay? Number 2, I'm looking at the graph. Kind of look at my arm motions. It looks like one of these, right? Positive or negative. This is a negative quadratic. So then I'm going to write down negative quadratic for my homework or on a test, just to identify. That's all we're doing is identifying today. Negative quadratic. Okay. Any questions on 1 or 2? Okay, simple, right? So after I do a couple of problems, then you're gonna have some discussion. So you're in pairs for a reason. So if you're on this side of your partners, you're a 1. If you're on that side of your partners, you're a 2. No one's better or worse than the other. That's just how I name you. So raise your hand if you're a 1. Okay. So ones will talk first. Ones will say, "How did I do number 1?" You say, and explain how did I identify it's a positive linear. And then once they're done, you're going to switch. You're going to talk. 2s will talk, how did I figure out it's a negative quadratic? Explain to your neighbor. And then once you're done with that, write both questions down, like the graphs and the answers. That's it. Okay, ready, set, talk, go. Okay, so now once we're done with the 2 and you're done talking, now you start writing. Now you're allowed to take notes, okay? So you're going to copy the directions with each problem, and then you're going to write down any work I did and the answer, okay? For this one, there's not like any calculations today. There aren't any calculations for this. So we're just identifying, all right? Yeah, 30 seconds to finish writing. Okay. Now for the next set of problems, what we do is we use these whiteboards that are in front of you. Usually we'll use iPads, but for now I want to teach you what I'm expecting of you. So in the next problems, we'll do one at a time, and I'm going to ask you to, you're going to copy down number 3, and then you're going to give me the answer. And then I'm going to check your work, and I'm going to show you if it's right or not. And then we'll do that for a few problems, and then we'll be done, okay? So number 3. Here we go. Number 3, what I'd like you to do is identify the form of the graph on number 3 alone. Okay, so write down the answer, and I'll give you about 30 seconds to think through it. And then you're going to show me. If you don't have marker, what, your markers are gone? Oh, okay, they're dead, so we'll just do it on your notebook paper. Or you could share with your neighbor if you want to ask them to share. Linear. Okay, excellent. That's the form of this function. Good. Number 4, what's the form of this one? Look at it and write it down. You should look at your notes to make sure you get the right answer. Negative cubic. Excellent. Okay. Next one, number 5. Go. Correct. Negative exponential. Okay. Last one. Last one, number 6. Looks like you're getting it, so. An easy way to clean your boards is also to just wipe them on the floor. Just for this week. Usually I have erasers, but there's just too much stuff. Positive quadratic. Okay. That's it. That concludes the lesson. Now, at the end of the lesson, once we're done, now through the lesson you could take notes on anything you were like, oh, that was a really good example. That was hard and I want to copy that. You could copy it as we go. But at the end we do this thing called closure, which is there are 4 questions you're going to discuss with your neighbor first, which are what did we learn? How do we do that? How does this fit in math? And how might we use this in real life? Okay. Think about the lesson. The last one's a concept. How might we use this concept in real life? Okay. You're going to discuss that with your neighbor. And then, after a minute, I'm going to call on you randomly. Okay? So, ready? Discuss these 4 questions with your neighbor. Get some answers ready. Go.